Let me start off strong here and get straight to the point. This is by far the greatest Star Wars game I have ever played, and in addition to that, one of the best games I have played in 2023 and on the next gen consoles. Think about that for a second.
I bet this senator has more credits stacked to
Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you are missing out on one amazing single player experience. Now, this isn't your typical review talking about the story and progression, etc. More straight to the point on what this game has to offer for action adventure fans as well as Star Wars fans. Now, I will admit that I had a hard time getting into the previous game, Jedi Fallen Order, and it took me months and months to finally get into it, play it a bit more, and complete it. This game, however, took me about a week to finish it, with a decent amount of collectibles and side activities completed. And I had a hard time putting this game down, which has cost me some sleep because I was excited to see what's going to happen next, or excited to get through that next challenge and keep progressing through the story. Now, to briefly get into the discussion of combat, which is very essential for games like this, combat just felt much more developed and satisfying this time around. And to be honest, I found the game to be not as challenging as Jedi Fallen Order, and I don't mind it. I'm not saying that the game is a pushover, because you will still find yourself in situations where you're just getting your ass kicked left and right. Even more so when you die from one attack from a Rancor. But I was able to my way through the game without rage quitting and without lowering the difficulty level, unlike the IGN reviewer who had to lower the difficulty because he had a tough time with the final boss. Now, to be fair, I did the same thing in Jedi Fallen Order, so who am I to judge, right?
We're not gonna make it to the hangar. Gotta put her down.
As I'm sure you know by now, you do choose the option to have 2 out of the 5 lightsaber stances at a time, and for the most part I decided to stick with dual wield as one stance and the cross guard as the other. The double-sided for me just didn't really do it for me. I did not really care about the blaster stance, and the single stance is just basic, you know, start off stance, if you want to call it that. I found that dual wield was a very fun and cool stance to use for my main stance of combat, and with the cross guard I found it more useful for those tougher enemies as well as boss battles. I got through some really tough boss battles with the cross guard stance, with a trial and error, finally doing cross guard and just dominating those boss battles after losing a few times. Now, when it comes to customization of Cal's appearance, I kept his hair and facial hair the default. I didn't really care for the other ones that I had unlocked. And as for his outfit, for the entire game, I kept the Luke Skywalker's jacket from the end of A New Hope, but I made it red instead of keeping the default yellow. And I had some cool pants that I used, and I just kept that style for the whole game pretty much. As I did mention earlier, this game does have a lot to offer for Star Wars fans. One of the great things about this game that you will see is when it transitions throughout traveling from planet to planet, the way you go through hyper speed travel, the way the screen would transition to a new area and you see the Mantis land, it's Star Wars as hell, if that makes any sense. You also get the great sounds from the blasters, the lightsabers, you know, the way that the stormtroopers sound when they talk to each other, the way that the droids sound when they talk. And one of the great things for me was that the tutorial of the game and the first main part of the game, the beginning, the opening, takes place on Coruscant. I never thought I would see an explorable Coruscant in a Star Wars game. Granted, it's not the high-rise buildings on in the outer part of Coruscant. You're not really exploring a huge section of Coruscant, but it's still very amazing to see visually. And as a Star Wars fan, it's great to see Coruscant make its way to a game that you can explore when it's not in Lego form. Now, when it comes to the battle droids, they do have their hilarious chatter and banter that you would, recognize from the prequel movies, and it's just so much more amazing to see that here in the game, and the way that they interact with each other and how they talk to one another and the different situations they get themselves into.
Take a look at that view. Is that a giant crater? Wow. I got it so easy. Guard the cliff, crush the locals, look at the scenery. Nobody's getting past me, not without a blaster hole in him. I wonder if I'll get promoted for doing such a good job. Then I'll get the other droids to guard the cliff. Oh, but then I won't see the scenery. Now that's a dilemma.
Dilemma solved.
Sir, I found something. It, seems... Droid down!
A roll of mine? This damn place. Oh, if I ever find out who made these things. All right, guard the area. There could be more of them.
Yeah, sir. Sir! Oh, so I guess this means I'm in command now.
Now, you do also get some decent amount of enemy variety, from stormtroopers to the raiders, wildlife that you can fight, wildlife that you can mount on and control, bounty hunters that will be hunting after you, and you can go take on missions to fight other bounty hunters and complete their, you can complete a whole list of bounty hunters basically, similar to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where you have that check off list of enemies that you can defeat in that main group. And you do get the bounty pucks that are much more commonly known from the Mandalorian, so that's pretty cool. And you use that as a form of currency for a specific NPC over on Kobo, and there's other currencies in the game used for different items and cosmetics, but I didn't really buy any of those. I just kept on with the game, honestly. You also do get to experience some really awesome and unexpected surprises, and honestly, you would be robbing yourself of the experience if you go on YouTube and just search those different things from there, as opposed to actually playing the game and experience it for yourself, because trust me, there were some really cool surprises that for me was out of nowhere, completely shocking. Trust me, you're going to be missing out on the experience if you don't play it for yourself. Now, something that I did enjoy as well is that at times you will have a teammate who will accompany you on a mission. It was primarily down to two characters, Marin from the previous game, as well as a newcomer named Bode, and they don't really go out with you throughout all the missions, and when they are with you, they're not in that mission for the entirety. They will at some point go on a different path and meet up with you later, and I did enjoy that because it did show that they're there to help you get through certain sections, and they are not really there to hold your hand throughout the whole time. And that's what these games are really about, is that challenge and that experience. And one thing that was really cool about these teammates is you can also see a really cool team takedown on the enemies, and it's a really cool thing to see when it happens.
Moving to melee tactics.
And as I mentioned earlier, you do have some mounts that you can ride on throughout the different planets, and they will get you around the land. And some of them are needed to get through certain areas and solve certain puzzles, so that's pretty cool. Nothing that was too overused in my opinion. I think it was used a decent amount for the game. You do also have a few different planets to explore, with Kobo being the main one that you will return to frequently, which has a majority of locations, challenges, collectibles, NPCs to interact with, side activities, seeds that you can find to then plant in the garden, etc. And as for the characters who were returning for this game, along with the new characters, just the relationships with these characters and the way they talk to each other and the stories that they share with each other, it's all just pretty great to see that. Now, unfortunately, we are in a time where games are releasing unfinished or unpolished, and they have different bugs and crashes. Thankfully, I did not experience too many issues as compared to those who played on the PS5 and those on PC, but PC gaming sucks. These aren't the joys you're looking for, but that's just my opinion on PC gaming. When it comes to crashes and bugs, I only had 2 hard crashes, and one of those 2 happened when I was messing around with the Xbox home screen. Aside from that, with pop-ins and some frame rate issues, I noticed that was more commonly a thing when playing on performance mode, so I spent maybe 95% of my time in resolution mode. I personally don't really care for 60 frames per second. As long as the game runs well enough and the game looks pretty good, that's all I really need. And for the most part, the game did run pretty good, and the game does look amazing, whether it's gameplay or cutscenes. In terms of specific bugs that I did experience, I had one where it prevented me from switching my 2 stances, as well as preventing me from using my force powers, but going to a meditation spot and clicking on rest did fix that problem. As for other frame rate issues, not too many that I saw on my playthrough on Xbox. Like I said, most of it did occur while playing in performance mode, so I just end up not playing in performance. I was also a little bit disappointed that we didn't get as many planets to explore as I hoped we would have, but on the flip side, that does mean less side missions and less collectibles, which would equal less feeling of being overwhelmed, and me personally, I don't like to be overwhelmed, so I take it as is. I did also play a majority of my game with the HUD disabled, because BD1's visor will go from green to red, indicating that your health is very low and you're gonna die. The main challenge to doing this was not being able to see how much force I have left before I ran out, as well as how many stims I have available to keep refilling my health. You just press the button, and if it doesn't do anything, then you know you're out. With some of the force powers, it does make you feel like a Jedi badass, both when it comes to traversal powers and combat powers, especially being able to control enemies and have them fight for you and fight their teammates. This game, and more specifically its story, is filled with laughter, love, friendship, hate, and betrayal, and it was one of the best stories I have experienced in a game, and honestly, in my opinion, one of the best Star Wars stories compared to some of the movies that we do have. Jedi Survivor is easily a contender for this year's Game of the Year, and I'm honestly ready to jump back in on New Game Plus. I'm Anthony Olan, this was my review of Jedi Survivor, and may the Force be with you.
Sarah's on lockdown. State your business.
Jean.
Believe the rumors. A Jedi. We brought him in alive.
The Senator is expecting us.